Welcome to Loot Shooter Weekly. It's Thursday night. I am gamertag Burt Reynolds, and this is the one and only Golden Voice of Gaming, Negan Killjoy.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, baby. How you doing, man? How's your Thursday treating you, Bert?
Thursday's going okay, man. It's going okay. I got skunked again last night.
I was gonna ask about that. So, some people avoid those animals. I talked to you about this. Some people actually avoid them on a regular basis. They don't go out and try to give them hugs.
Yeah, some people do. And I do. I personally do. My dog does not. It's not so much me as it is my dog. So yeah, I mean I didn't get directly skunked last night. My dog took one straight to the face.
Oh, that's not good.
And then, of course, her response, I could see it coming. Not to go off on too far of a tangent, but I let her out the door to go to the bathroom. I usually go out there with her at night because we do get a lot of wildlife. You know that.
Sure.
And she went out and got ready to go to the bathroom, and then I could hear a little rustle in the grass.
Oh,
and
nice.
I looked. I couldn't exactly see what it was, but she started to tear at it, and I was like, "No!" And then just giant cloud, like the whoosh, like it looked like like almost like one of those. What do they call them? Color parties, color runs, like where they throw the printer toner. And it was like whoosh, and then she turned around and her face was just dripping, and of course. What would be the natural response to that? She came running over and wiped her face on my pants.
Sure. She's like, you can help me here. I'm gonna rub this off right on you. Yes.
And so that was that. That was my whole evening then last night. That happened about 10 o'clock, right as I was about to game. That's what happened. So in a weird way, it's a miracle that I have a build actually to show tonight because
I was going to say, when did you find time to do the build?
Luckily, I'd put this one together. You may remember if you watched last week's stream when we went inside the builder's studio, I was talking about the build that I'm going to showcase tonight, which is a Dahl-focused Moze build.
That's right.
And so I already worked on it quite a bit and just really had to put a few finishing touches on it, which I managed to have a little bit of time to do tonight for the stream.
Nice.
So
very cool. So speaking of inside the builder studio and stuff like that, we ran the Amara. What did you ultimately think of the Amara build you put together last week? Is this something you're going to run some more? I mean, we ran it through the takedown, seemed to be doing pretty good work in the takedown. How'd you feel about it after last week?
So I'm still running it. So I guess that's good. That's a good sign. I am still running it. I'm still messing around with it. Yeah. Still messing around with it this week. I had no problem. You and I had no problem getting it through the Malawan takedown. And I think it's strong in the Malawan takedown. I don't think it would be good in the Guardian takedown. I was realizing this a couple days ago. Again, as I mentioned last week, I'm the kind of nerdy person who's awoken in the middle of the night by questions about builds. And
some would say that's tragic, but I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So this thought occurred to me that, like, for the last boss in the Guardian takedown, you almost always, or should, put on a transformer. Because kind of like Kilovolt, the floor gets electrified with shock damage. And can't do that with the transformer, Negan. Or not with the transformer, with the front loader. You can't do that with the front loader. Because
no, you can't.
Then you don't have 5150 anymore. So you could run the build, but you would not be doing 5150 in that final room. Or if you decided to stay that course, and we'd have to test it. We'll have to test it. We haven't gotten around to testing it at the Garden Takedown. I think that could pose for a pretty big problem. And of course, the worst time to have that kind of problem is on the final boss of a takedown that if you wipe, sends you back to the midpoint.
Right. Yeah, that's not fun. So it sounds like you'd have to carry almost 2 sets of shields and 2 sets of weapons and stuff like that, along with your regular build that you're running the whole time.
Yeah, I would think so.
That's kind of what you're saying. Gotcha.
And at that point, it's not that build, because that whole build was centered around being able to run 5150. So at the point where I would have to trade it out for splash damage weapons and consecutive hits weapons, and a different shield. Yeah, the skill tree might be the same, but it's no longer that build.
Right.
Then it's just a regular old Phaserker ties the bind to Mara.
And do you think it's super critical to have the transformer? I mean, I know it makes it easier because of the floor and stuff like that, but I mean, I've run it in there before. I mean, I fell off the edge, but I didn't run with the transformer. So you could run it without the transformer. You're just finding the right weapons.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I say we'd have to test it. It depends on how much that shock damage. Every time I've ever finished that takedown, which if I'm honest, it's quite a few. You know, I've probably finished that takedown 30 or 40 times now. I've always run a transformer.
Oh, okay.
Or I've run a shock old god that has shock resistance and elemental resistance, but I've never run it with a build with a front loader on it. I've not done the Guardian takedown on my flak. What is that one?
The Gamma Burst flak?
I've never run it on my Gamma Burst URAD flak, no. So, I mean, you'd be in no worse shape than you would be with a Gamma Burst URAD flak, so I guess theoretically you could do it. It's just I haven't tested it, so I can't say for sure. Other than that, I think I like it. I really do think I like it.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously we don't go down the rabbit hole too much on it, but you said you did a couple tweaks to it as well. Did you, like, move around the skill tree a little bit, or is it just how you play it, or what kind of tweaks did you say you made to it?
So I traded out a couple things this week on it. I traded out the comm for a different Phaserker with more points into Conflux because I wasn't able to put enough points into Conflux to be happy with it. So that was one of the things I did. I also switched out the Hunter Seeker for a light speed grenade. And as of a couple days ago, I added in a Maggie as the pistol, just because the ricochet and crit, and nothing to the skill tree at all. I didn't do anything to the skill tree. I just messed with the guns a little bit, kind of got to a spot where I felt pretty good about the selection of weapons that I had in my backpack and what I was actually actively running. The Maggie's strong. Nice. The Maggie's very strong. And so, not that I didn't like, what was I running on it last week? A Hellshock? I like the Hellshock, but the Maggie is very potent on Mara.
All right. Well, that sounds good. Cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was a building in real time, so that was kind of nice that you got it and found some enjoyment out of it. So that's always a good thing. Now on to whatever we're doing tonight. So talked about Amara. Let's go on to what we're doing tonight. You know, the important stuff first, if you want to get the important stuff first. But I'll let you drive.
I was going to let you drive tonight. I'm along for the ride. No,
yeah, because my Moze build's going to kick ass. Sure, that'll happen.
Yeah, sorry to break it to you, but you better have brought your Moze build. I think we should cover a couple of the important things, starting with, I think what you're drinking tonight would be a good place to start.
Yes, indeed. I am tonight. Tonight I'm continuing the exploration of Oktoberfest beers. Because it is Oktoberfest. It seems like the way to go. And this one is from, I forget who does this one, to be honest. Doesn't have their name on it for some reason. Anyway, it's a fest beer is what it's called. And they describe it as smooth, pale German-style lager with moderately strong malty flavor and light hop character that balances through strength with drinkability. A beer style that represents the modern German beer served at Oktoberfest, the world's largest beer festival held annually in Munich, Bavaria, from mid-September to early October. Which seems like it should go more through October if it's called Oktoberfest, but I won't go there. So that's what I'm doing.
Right.
It's called Fest beer.
Fest beer.
I just remember who did it. I feel bad. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. So
and it's generic.
It's generic. It's like one of the, it's like if you saw it in a store, you'd be thinking, yeah, it's generic beer. Okay, got it.
It just says beer.
It literally just says fest beer on it. That's all it says.
Fest beer. Exactly. Yeah. Nice.
Exactly.
Very nice. Classy. Yeah. I like it.
Sometimes you gotta dig into it to get into the good stuff. So what are you doing tonight?
So I debated, right? Because I was also going to do another Oktoberfest, but I decided I'd save it for next week because I found this and it had a really cool bottle. Let's see if you can get a good view of it. It's got a Lich King, skeleton Lich King thing on it. It's called Zombie Dust by
Nice.
Three Floyds Brewing in Munster, Indiana. And I like their they have a beer called Gumball Head, which is like their wheat. And I like that. So I figured, I think I did Gumball Head maybe a couple months ago when I was on the wheat beer kick. So I thought I'd try it. It just says pale ale. It says this, I should have read it before I decided to do it. This intensely hopped and gushing undead pale ale will be one's only respite after the zombie apocalypse, created with our marvelous friends in the comic industry, art by Tim Seeley.
Gotcha.
So,
well,
if nothing else, it's got good artwork. And apparently a lot of hops, which I can smell the second I opened it. I'm like, oh boy.
Oh noes.
It smells, it literally smells like hops now, which, I'll be honest, shares some similarity to the skunk smell from last night.
Yeah, that's skunk. So now I have to wonder. In a bottle.
Now I have to wonder. Do I still have skunk on my jeans, or is it just this beer I opened?
Right, exactly.
But I mean, look at this bottle. That is a beauty. I mean, it is really a cool looking bottle. So
that is kind of cool.
If nothing else, I got a good bottle out of it.
There you go. Look by its cover. Cool. Well, hopefully it's
cheers.
Not too hoppy. Cheers. Prost, as they say during October.
Prost. Yes, prost.
All right.
Oh no, it's hoppy. Is it hoppy? Okay.
Speaking of hoppy, let's get into your build, because you're going to occasionally be hopping into a bear. See what I did there? Occasionally hopping into a bear. Hoppy.
I like that. I see what you did there.
There you go. All right, let's talk about it. So tonight's called Dahl Mechanized Infantry Moze. So tonight is your Dahl build.
My Dahl build. So we talked a little bit last week during Inside the Builder's Studio about how, one of the tier 2 builds you could do would be to take a base build and build around a weapon or a gun manufacturer. And so that's what this one is. It's all about Dahl. And I'm going to call out as we look at this, I'm going to call out a couple weaknesses, one of which I hoped would get addressed this week and it didn't. Which is going to give me an opportunity to talk about what did get addressed this week.
Right, they did a little hot fix on us.
There's a little hot fix. I was really hoping they were going to buff one of the Dahl pistols. I was really hoping for the Hornet, but I would have taken... The Blanc doesn't really need a buff, but I would have taken the Nemesis. But they didn't buff any of them. They did buff the Companion.
Why were we looking for the Hornet to be buffed? Were we looking just damage, just so it makes more damage?
Just damage. Okay. Yeah, just damage. They did buff the Companion, the Polybus, the Horizon, the Garcia. That might be it. Oh, no, the Sleeping Giant.
Sleeping Giant, Infinity.
Oh, the Infinity, yep.
Destructo Spinner?
The Destructo Spinner, yep.
Right. And Skullmasher and Craps, I think it is. Those ones.
Craps, Skullmasher, and the Red Line. The Red Line's the exciting one. So they did buff a bunch of stuff, but not what I needed them to buff.
They didn't check with you first.
They buffed a bunch of grenades, though, and that was pretty cool. I think I'm most excited about the grenade buffs and the Red Line. None of that is Dahl focused, so that's about as far as we're going to take that.
Okay.
The build, the guns, it's all Dahl guns. And Dahl has a whole bunch of good options for Moze that deal splash damage, which is weird because Dahl is not a gun manufacturer that's traditionally associated with splash damage. When I think splash damage, I think Malawan. But Dahl has some. So the Venomous Hornet is strong. It needs a buff. So it's good in everything up through the Malawan takedown. It's not great in the Guardian takedown. It's a little weak for the Guardian takedown. So that's my pistol. I'm doing the Bloodstarved Beast, which is from DLC 4 as my SMG. Awesome gun. If I were running this in the Guardian Takedown, I would run this in first slot, and I would actually run 2 assault rifles in second and third slot. But I'm going to show you how I'd run it everywhere else. I'm running a Soul Render in the third slot. If I were running 2 assault rifles, I'd run the Soul Render in a Chaos. And then my heavy hitter here is going to be the Sandhawk. Because the Sandhawk and Moze are a match made in heaven, because the Sandhawk's weakness is ammo and Moze's specialty is never running out of ammo. So it works out perfect.
It does sound like a match made in heaven, absolutely.
I've mentioned this before. Moze's other big weakness, I guess it is her big weakness, is that she kills herself a lot. And so you kind of have to decide how to mitigate that. There's kind of 2 options. You can run a Last Stand Auto Idol as your artifact. That'll give you 5 seconds of immunity when you get to 50% health. Or you can run a stopgap. That'll give you 5 seconds of immunity when your shield breaks. This gives you time to realize you're killing yourself and do something about it. You can run both together if you really are feeling like you're too weak. I find that it's probably enough to run one or the other. I don't really find much benefit in running both. The one thing is, from a shield perspective, if you were going to run something other than a stopgap, you would run probably an Old God. That's what I would run, an Old God. And that's going to give you some bonus elemental damage, but not a ton, like 25%.
Okay.
But of course,
it's good to find extra damage where you can, though. I mean, even if it's only a little bit, to squeeze it out here and there.
Yep. However, the Pearl is going to give you 115% weapon damage. And this is a splash damage focused Moze build, and so what she actually does lack is weapon damage. She doesn't lack elemental damage, and she doesn't lack splash damage. What she's lacking is raw weapon damage, which of course is something you get out of the red tree, but in a splash damage Moze build, you're not going down the red tree. So, ergo, I'm going to run the Pearl, and I'm going to run the stopgap. So my stopgap has, after exiting Iron Bear, gains 75% shields, which is my standard anointment on pretty much any shield I run on Moze, just because that is a very, very strong anointment. 75% shield and health for 25 seconds is a long time, way longer than you'll be out of the bear if you're bear hopping. So you basically have just a giant shield and a lot of health, and so it's a good choice. I'm running a Blastmaster that has weapon damage and Dahl weapon damage and weapon magazine size. I'm running a Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge, and I'm running a Cloning Maddening Tracker with on grenade throw.
Nice. And the Maddening Tracker, again, is because it stacks the Pearl, right? It helps stack the Pearl up?
It stacks the Pearl. It also gives you bonus. The more enemies you damage with a grenade, the more health regen you get from Vampire. So you want a grenade that puts out as many mini grenades as possible. And the Cloning Maddening Tracker, I think the Cloning Maddening Tracker and the Cluster F are the 2 most at like 16, but the Cloning Maddening Tracker tracks, which means you can just throw it and forget it, which is awesome.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So since you mentioned Vampire, I guess the segue is going into your skill tree now.
Yeah. And we talked last week about, kind of base builds, right? So this is really based off of Moxie's Firehose Moze. Is more or less. Like, that was the base skill tree I started with. I've made modifications. It's not exactly the same, but, it's kind of, we talked last week. There's only certain skill trees that are going to make sense for splash damage based Moze builds. Like, I wouldn't want to put a bunch of stuff into Iron Bear fuel because I'm not going to be in the Iron Bear. I'm just going to hop in and out, So, the tree. 5 go into fire in the Skag Den. which is going to give me bonus incendiary damage. I've got 1 point into Grizzled, which is going to help with my Iron Bear cooldown time so that I can bear hop. I have 3 points into Stainless Steel Bear. This helps with Iron Bear's damage, but it also, for some reason, it's not written into here, but it does buff Short Fuse, which is my capstone skill. So that's why I put points in here. I've got 5 into Torque Cross Promotion, which is going to up my splash damage. It's also going to make a larger splash damage radius. This is part of why Moze kills herself a lot. I have 3 into Means of Destruction. This is going to give me back ammo and grenades based on the amount of splash damage I do. I'm going to do a lot of splash damage, so I'm going to get a lot of grenades and ammo back. I need those grenades back more than the ammo because they are my source of healing. I've got 3 into Pull the Holy Pin, and I've got bonus. I think it's 3 into Pull the Holy Pin. Maybe it's 5. What does my comm say?
Looks like you're getting 3 from your comm.
I am getting 3 from my comm. So I've got 3 into Pull the Holy Pin. I'm getting 3 more. This allows my grenades to crit when they hit. It's a good thing. Critical hit damage from a grenade, especially if you get a strong grenade in there. I have not yet tried the buffed Hex. The buffed Hex with Pull the Holy Pin might be really, really strong. I haven't tried it out yet. I'm going to use Auto Bear.
When you say really strong, do you think just strong as a grenade or strong for healing purposes as well?
No, it'll be less strong for healing purposes.
Mm-hmm.
But the Cloning Manning Tracker didn't get a buff today. The Hex got a buff, and that potentially would make the Hex a very deadly grenade. You know, like if you think about, there's the balance, right? Doing damage with the grenade versus healing yourself with the grenade. The Cloning Manning Tracker is going to heal better, but a recurring Hex might put out a lot of damage, especially if it's constantly critting. So we'll have to try that out. I have one with OGT. I just didn't bring it with me tonight. We'll have to give that a try. We can report back next week.
There you go.
I have 5 out of 5 into Vampire. This is going to give me back the healing, and finally I capped out with Short Fuse. This allows a secondary explosion when I'm dealing gun damage. It's just bonus damage. It's very strong. It dips into both mayhem scaling and action skill damage, and so it is ridiculous. Green Tree, which we're also going to go all the way down. I've got 5 into Cloud of Lead. This allows me to not consume ammo and gives me bonus incendiary damage. Stoke the Embers, even more bonus incendiary damage. Redistribution, when I score critical hits, I regen ammo and health. Scrappy's going to give me weapon damage, handling, weapon swap speed, and mode switch speed. Scrappy's strong, especially if you're running around, right? And you just have to be moving a little bit. Russian Offensive's going to give me some lifesteal when I'm running around. Scorching RPMs is going to bump up my fire rate and critical hit damage. It also gives the Iron Bear some damage. So again, with Auto Bear up. I did go 5 into Iron Bank for additional mag size. Just 1 into Click Click because I just don't run down the ammo. So I don't get a lot of gun damage out of Click Click. You get a lot of gun damage out of Click Click if you're going empty. And finally, I put 1 into Forge for constantly regenning ammo. Now, the reason I did this, Negan, is because normally I don't cap out Forge a lot of the time. But Dahl weapons, while they are splashy, are not as splashy as like Malawan. And so I don't get quite as much out of Means of Destruction in terms of ammo regen. So this just allows me to really regen ammo on some of the less splashy Dahl guns.
And again, important. If you're running out of ammo, you're running out of damage, you can't put it out. Bad guys win.
Bad guys win. Yep. Final tree here, red tree. I did 5 into armored infantry. This gives me gun damage and damage reduction. While my shield is up. Drowning in brass. This again gives me additional gun damage at a reduced fire rate. But I'm reversing that because of the scorching RPMs.
Okay.
And then finally, I've got bonus incendiary damage from experimental munitions. I think all of the bonus incendiary damage, I want to say it adds up to like 100 or 125%, which is as good as an anointment on a gun. And so I've always got that fire damage going. now I'm going to have some, corrosive and shock. You'll notice all my guns are focused around corrosive and shock because that's what we would run in the takedown. And the last thing you and I did with this build was run it in the takedown because I was testing it. The other thing I would mention here is any of these kind of Firehose Moze based builds are very flexible. So when we were running it in the takedown, I was actually running it with a green monster on. If I were bossing, I could run it with a Minesweeper on. If I felt like I was really squishy, which I don't, but I could go squishier and then replace the comm with a Sapper comm, and that would give me back, health, like basically lifesteal. So I'm going to run it with a Blastmaster, but, know that you could run a green monster, and if you went in like we're attacking Traunt, or, if we were in a takedown, we got to the boss battle, I would probably put on the Minesweeper, only because it's very easy to get precise critical hits with Dahl weapons. They're very accurate. And so from that perspective, I can get the Minesweeper grenades to drop a lot.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, what are we going to do here? Go take it through here?
Take it through our normal testing grounds we normally run through. Obviously, as usual, you will, excuse me, you will do most of the shooting. I will simply be in back enjoying my beer while you do this, occasionally shooting things because the ghosts and stuff will probably come after me. So I will have to shoot something occasionally. But no, it's mostly going to be you. And again, are you playing this like you normally do with the Moze? You're running in there about mid-range, dropping in your bear, dropping out of your bear, shooting things and throwing grenades?
Yep, that is exactly how I'm going to play this. It literally, it's totally standard. I am going to, kind of stay back a little because, as I did mention before, Moze will kill herself
right.
just with her own splash damage. She doesn't mean to, Negan. It just sort of happens.
Real fast, on your build, after we kill these guys, you want to talk about what you put on the bear as far as like missiles and weapons and stuff on your bear?
Augments. Yeah, Augments. I went double nukes. Again, for mobbing, that's, in my opinion, you really can't do any better. You can see all that radiation damage, and it just, it just spreads, right? So I like radiation damage. But I think when we were testing this out in the Malawan takedown, I was actually running double rail guns for bossing purposes, which is also an excellent choice. So you can see here the Venomous Hornet is a really fun gun. It just really needs a buff. It does a ton of splash damage though. You can see the clouds. It reminds me a little bit of a pistol version of the cloud kill. Because it has that big cloud of corrosive damage around it.
Right.
So in this next area, I'll show you what the Bloodstarved Beast looks like, and this is probably I'm going to say this, but I'd probably get some hate mail for it. But I think this might be the best gun that came out of DLC 4. It's very strong on Moze because its big weak spot is ammo regen. Or ammo capacity, ability to maintain ammo. And obviously Moze doesn't have an issue with that. It's sort of like a combination of the Chaosin and I don't know what. It says it drills into enemies and then embeds itself and explodes. And yeah, I believe it. It's just it's a fun gun to use.
Gotcha. And so why do you think you'll get hate mail on it? Just because people don't like it as much, or they've been using it, or? Oh no, I just think the new DLC had several good guns. I could make a case for the Rebound being a great gun from the new DLC. I think a lot of people like the Kong. Mm-hmm.
So that would also be another. I'm sure a lot of people would be like, oh, but what about the Kong? I mean, a lot of great things came out of DLC 4. I think probably the strongest thing coming out of it is the Plus Ultra Shield. But, some of the new comms are awesome too. But I love my Bloodstarved Beast. I think Dahl is actually legit on Moze. I have to say, I'm not disappointed. I'm gonna switch now to the soul render, and the soul render is great because the little skulls it shoots out do splash damage. And we need some splash damage in order to be getting back our grenades and our ammo. So that is kind of important.
So actually, Salt Render is becoming relatively popular too. I'm starting to see people ask for it and look for it as well. So it's becoming a relative. Is it popular because of the skulls and damage and the terror? I think that shouldn't make any difference. But is it? Why do you think it's becoming a little more popular?
So the soul render's always been strong. It really, I don't think it received some general buffs when they buffed Dahl assault rifles.
Mhm.
It's a hard gun to get a good copy of because depending on the pieces on it, you can end up with one that's just burst and semi-auto, and that is not very good. And so you have a lot of RNG to overcome with the soul render. But I think there's just currently a little bit of love for Dahl just because all the other Dahl assault rifles have gotten buffed and are strong. Because the soul render's always been a good gun. I can't think of a time when it wasn't. But you know where it comes from, Zam and Tam, and of course, you know how much they suck to farm.
Mm-hmm.
So,
nah, big fan of that farm.
yeah. And then you imagine the fact that you have as good a chance to get a gun that has, burst and semi, which basically barely throws out the skulls.
Right.
I'm actually going to attack him. You may remember from last week, I attacked him enough to get those guys to come out. Then I phase grasped one of them, shot the guy, and it killed Tron.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how I'm going to do this. I am using a
That's-
Sandhawk with consecutive hits, and I have a burst damage one, burst fire, because burst fire has more damage. I also have full auto ones, but I'm going to use a burst fire one, or I could even use a semi-auto one. If you're in the slowest mode, you get the most damage per pellet. So
Right.
So
All right, here we go.
all
Doc,
right.
we're coming for you, man. We're coming for you. Woo!
So again, I'm gonna pop up the bear. I'm gonna wait for him to put up his little wall. Ideally, oh, he's not gonna do it. Okay.
No, he put up a little second ago. It was off to your right. You couldn't see it. Not that it matters with what your damage you're doing to him. Poor
Bye, Trant.
Trant. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't going to last very long here either.
No, he's not gonna last very long. So, yeah, that basically is how that goes.
Nice.
He's going to get wrecked quick. So again, we're calling this Dahl Mechanized Infantry, Venomous Hornet, Bloodstarved Beast, Soul Render or Chaos, your choice, Sandhawk, Stopgap, Blastmaster, Ineffable Knowledge, Cloning Maddening Tracker, solid build, maybe a Hex, maybe the Hex. I'm going to go grab one from the bank, maybe the Hex, but this is the time when you get to insert your joke about the size of my bank.
Knocking in. Whoa, wait a minute. That's not your bank. That's somebody else's
This is my bank. No, this is my bank.
Not your bank.
This is my bank.
Mm-hmm. If you have
My
less
bank.
than 250 in there, that's somebody robbed you. You gotta call the cops, the authorities on this one.
No, this is my bank. The follow-up question is, how many more mules did you make this week, Jared?
Burt, I was probably not going to ask that this week, but my next question was going to be, so you got a couple meals, you must have loaded up a little bit. How many did, you don't want to admit to it, but you've got at least a couple others.
I do, yeah. So I did make a couple more mules, but not because I need to clean space out in my bank, but just reorganizing some stuff to make it a little bit more easy to find. So that's the build. Let's talk about the beer. How were you feeling about your generic
Feist beer? Just right.
Your Kirkwood Feist beer.
The Kirkwood Fest beer, exactly. Like I said, I feel bad I don't know the brewery. It's actually pretty good. It's
Is
really
it?
good. I'm probably going to put it a little bit better than last week's. It doesn't have nearly the hop that the last week's had. It's actually very little, if any, hop in it at all. It's very malty, very good. I'd probably give it an 8. So it's one step above the one I had last week. No, it's really good. It's got that amber color, got that Oktoberfest color going on. This one I could drink a couple times. Sit down and have a couple of these in a sitting. And they're low ABV, which is even better when you're sitting down and having a couple in a sitting. So,
Well, that's a good point. I didn't even
They're
look at the ABV on this guy.
we just got the
I
cool
don't think
artwork.
it says on here. Who cares about the ABV?
Yeah, who cares
Artwork's
about
cool.
that? Yeah, that's exactly right. So what'd you think of your beer, artwork aside?
I don't think I can separate the two. I'm gonna give the beer a solid 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
I do not like it. But I give the bottle a 10.
Oh, there you go. Averages out.
So what is
so
that?
when you say
Like a
don't like it,
6? That's a 6.
it's a 6, 12 and a half, 6. Yeah. So does it taste like, as we've discussed when we talk about hoppy beers, is it the green fresh pine cone, or is it the one pine cone that's been sitting on the ground for a while?
Oh, it's a little both.
Wow.
I would describe. Well, and part of it might be because I got skunked last night.
Mhm.
My description
Possible.
of this beer is it actually does have a good malt profile. It does. I can taste the malt, which is rare for something this hoppy. And it's got a good healthy malt taste. But the hop profile is a mix of some green pine cones that fell into grass clippings and then got sprayed by a skunk while somebody was smoking weed 2 feet away.
Oh, really good description, by the way. Really good description. Not even remotely enjoyable, but really good description. Damn.
So there you go. I mean, it's about as bitter and off-putting. Again, and I should, like the second I opened that bottle, the whole room smelled like it.
Oh, wow.
So it is about as bitter and off-putting of a hop profile as I think I've ever tasted. I'd be interested. I'll have to look it up. I'm not going to do it now, but I'd have to look it up on Beer Advocate. My bet is it has a very, very, very high IBU rating. It's probably
Yeah, probably.
super high, like 60s or something. Like it's probably like off the charts. So, not a keeper, Negan, but the bottle.
I was going to say, my next one. So the bottle's a keeper. The beer itself.
The
could be
bottle,
one
on the
that's
other
gonna
hand,
sit
is
on the shelf.
incredible. If you
There
are
you go.
looking for a cool bottle to add to your bottle collection, look no further than
Look
3
no
Floyd
further
Zombie
than
Dust.
There you go.
Highly recommend it for your bottle collection. If you're into skunks, weed smoke smell, eating grass and pine cones,
Also, your
I've got
cup of tea.
I've got a beer for you.
Oh,
For
good.
everybody
Good news.
else who likes
Probably
balance,
not. Yeah, probably not the best beer in the world.
stay
Gotcha.
away from this one. Yeah. Stay clear. I think that's it,
Nice.
Negan. I didn't have anything else planned for tonight other than to show off this build, and
No, good.
we'll probably do a giveaway of it sometime soon, just
Great.
because want other people to play around with it and see what they think.
Definitely. We do the giveaways on Angelic and Beastly Creatures where they mostly start off. And then sometimes
Yeah,
we
so
have a
if you're
couple other
on
ones that.
if you're on if you're on Xbox and you have Discord, Angelic
Mhm.
and Beastly Creatures, that's where we host our giveaways out of. We do definitely post it to other ones like the Vault Thieves and Infinity and things like that. But we will probably do a giveaway of this at some point. We're doing a giveaway this weekend of just the general bullet hose Moze. So at some point we'll do this as well. Next week maybe we'll show you the how the Amara does a takedown. That's probably a good thing to test out and see on stream how it handles a takedown.
Mhm.
That gives me one more week to fine tune that build. Even though it was a joke in the first place, I mean, not a joke, but just a random thought. But could definitely run that one up through a takedown
Absolutely. See how it
and
does.
see how that goes. Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right, another
We're
week
good.
down, and
Another week down. Another beer discovered and or ignored for the future reference. Good builds. And yeah, I think it's time to say see ya.